Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Avian Lotus, and welcome back to the third devlog for my game Mutant Harbor. Today, we're trying something a little different. This is entirely live. Usually, when I do my devlogs, I do voiceover over top of pre-recorded clips, but today we are just going to dive right into the project live, and I'll show you all the updates. I have a ton of stuff to show you. Super excited, so let's just dive in. So as you can see, I have created a title screen for the game, as well as interactable buttons to start the game, an options menu that currently doesn't have anything in it, but I can easily add to later, and an exit button. Now the exit button doesn't have any functionality within Unity when playtesting the game, but as soon as I build and export the file onto a computer to be able to run the application, it will be able to quit and exit the game. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that our audio sources were turned down. That way you can hear me over top of the music that's playing, so... As I was saying before, you might notice that the environment looks a little different. Instead of having that big area, there's just a small area here where you have the town. I didn't want daytime enemies to spawn near the town and cause issues when I add, like condition to the town and give it health and stats and things like that. So instead of having a large landmass here, I just made it small enough that enemies would not be able to spawn. And I'll talk a little bit more about enemy spawns as we go down here and venture out through the map. You might also notice here that we have a new line of text that says press space to store items. I will show you how that works here in a minute. We're just going to head down. So you head down from the main town and then you will hit a landmass down here. You might also notice that the landmasses are less blocky. I went ahead and made something a little bit more custom. So here we are. These red blocks here are meant to indicate enemies being spawned in the map, and I'll show you a little bit about how that works later. We're just going to take our axe, our handy dandy little axe here, and cut down some trees. So cut it down and it drops a loot item. You can press F to pick up loot items. So we're going to pick them up. So the script that's on these items are a little finicky with how it counts, like the hits taken and then the hits needed to break. Sometimes it gets buggy and ends up breaking on the first hit. I'm not sure why it does that, but I will revisit that at some point to fix it. But here we go. If you press I while your character is out on patrol, it will open up an inventory where you can go and you can see a little bit of a desaturated image of what you picked up. So you can see we have 4 empty blocks of inventory and 4 full blocks of log items. And then you just press escape to close that little pop-up. We're going to select the pickaxe and we're going to do the same thing over here with some stone. Hello, stone. Now the thing about this is I actually do not remember, because of how zoomed in the camera is, where I spawned all the rocks at. I know they're a little bit more spread out than the tree groups I've thrown into the scene. So getting my hands on them is going to be a little bit more tricky. But I gotta remember I can kind of get out of the ship and drive around and take a look with a zoomed out camera. So here we go. Gather some more. I'm just going to go until our inventory is full. I'm going to need the items so that I can show you some things a little bit later on. How many do I have right now? I got 2. So clear out these 2 right here, and then then I should have 4 of each, which should be enough to show off the craftables that I have added to the game. Oh, excuse me. Alright, cool. So now we have a full inventory. Now that text box that I had showed you earlier where you store them, that's how you actually add it to your inventory. So this character carry inventory, you can't do anything with. You can't craft from there, and it doesn't really store the items. To store the items, you have to bring it back to your ship and store it in your ship. When you do that, it clears out your inventory so that you can carry a new set of items. And then when you enter the ship and press I, it opens up this menu. Now this menu has the collected inventory that you have. So I have collected 4 timber and 4 stone. And then at the bottom you have your craftables. So I can craft either a repair kit or a fishing pole. Repair kits take 2 lumber, 1 stone, and a fishing pole, as of this current build, takes 1 lumber and 1 stone. So I'm going to go ahead and craft both of these for the sake of showing you what they do. Alright, so here I am. You notice this green bar on the side. When I run into anything in the environment that has collision with the boat, it starts taking damage. That is the boat's health. Now, for the sake of showing this off completely, I'm going to... Oh, and we just hit nighttime. But I'm going to go ahead and completely knock my health down. So now I can't do anything on the boat. I can't turn the boat. I can't drive forward or backward. I can only shoot in a straight line. Not good, right? Well, if you have a crafted or repair kit and you press R while you're in the boat, it refills. And then you can keep going. And that's how repair kits work. And then we have a fishing pole. So what the fishing pole does is if we come over here and we left click right now. Now right now it's kind of bugged because if I left click like any of these buttons down here at the bottom of the screen to be able to use like the pickaxe or whatever, it'll try casting. If you cast on the land, it won't do anything. It tries to instantiate a bobber, and it can't because it's not on a water tile, so it won't instantiate. But if you're near water, and you left click, there's a bobber, and then over time, you'll see it slowly, you see it grow bigger. You gotta left click while it grows bigger, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna open up basically a game of like Simon Says. So you have 6 digits that will pop up randomly, and you have to input the correct code. And if you do that before a timer in the background that isn't visible runs out, then you'll catch a fish. If not, it'll fail condition and then boot you back. So we're gonna give this a try. And then it spawns a fish. Yay, fishy! Right now there is no logic to be able to pick up the fish or do anything with it, it just spawns it by your feet. So that's something that I'll have to do later, but you can keep going. There are 3 different variants of fish that I have that can spawn. So you have small fish, you have medium fish, and large fish. I think I called a small and a large. There's percentages for all of it. I believe the small and the medium fish have about a 40% chance to drop, and then the large fishes have about a 20% chance. So that's how that works. So I kind of wanted to bring you back out here to the editor so that during runtime I can show you with a zoomed out view how the enemy instantiation works. So essentially what it does, if I go over here to enemy spawner, what it does is it will instantiate an enemy based on this tile map right here, the terrain tile map, which is the one that the player can travel on, and it has collision for the boat. So I use that tile map, and any of the tiles that are a solid color, So not these transitionary tiles where there's water underneath it, but the solid color is a tile in which it can try to spawn at. I also have it so that if I go down here, this physics overlap circle is basically a trigger. So you can think of it like a collider, like a circle collider, so that if it tries to spawn and anything that's within a 4-unit radius circle collides with anything, it returns false, so it won't be able to spawn like directly on a rock or directly on a tree or a player. There's also blocking layers, which is just a way to identify like what objects specifically it can't spawn on, because if I had it just so that it would not spawn on anything that has collision, it wouldn't spawn on any of this because it has collision for the boat. So that's how that works. I have to go and create blocking layers, and all that is like a drop down over here. You see over here layer environment. If I go to like the boat is layer default. If I go to, I don't really have one right now, I don't think, currently in the, I have the player tester, so that's on its own layer player, bars. Anyway. So essentially it does that, and then you have spawn interval, which is basically the time in between attempting spawns. Then you have spawn attempts, which is the max number of attempts that it does after the interval. So at runtime, like every 2 seconds, it will attempt 100 times to spawn an enemy. Enemy spawned is a count that every time it successfully spawns an enemy, it adds 1, and then I have a max entity count of 15. So once it instantiates 15 enemies, it will no longer spawn anymore. And if this number were to be affected, so as soon as I start creating scripts for the enemy itself, if the enemy is destroyed, we'll just subtract from the enemy spawned, and as long as it's lower than 15 and 2 seconds go by, it'll try to spawn another enemy 100 times. So that's how that works. I'm just going to go and hit play on this and show you in real time what this kind of looks like. Thank you so much, guys, for checking in and watching my latest devlog. Please leave your opinions in the comments. I'm really looking for some constructive feedback. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you think needs to be improved upon. And until next time, I'm Avian Lotus, signing off.